Okay. Okay. Welcome to Voice Consulting and Business Solutions After Hours Ask the Expert series. I am Margarita Estrada, COO of Voyage, together with Darlene Blanco, our CEO, and Mario Lewis, our CFO. Thank you for joining us from Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific time zones. We are so excited that you're here with us. Remember to grow your business at Voyage, to ignite your career with Voyage, and start your Voyage when? Today. For value-added content, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel at Start Your Voyage, and follow us on LinkedIn. Last week, we presented a case of our expectation that our presentation would be successful, except for one thing. There are technical glitches that have been happening, causing delays. So the solution is to refocus, regroup, and reframe. Last week, we covered many topics on this particular case. For example, the 3 C's, like Mario says: cool, calm, collected, and adaptable. Make sure that you acknowledge the issue, engage the audience in your dilemma, and be ready to have a sense of humor and improvise. Offer an unexpected bonus, have a backup plan, print your slides, print multiple copies and have multiple versions of your presentation, such as on a USB drive, or upload it to your email. Print your slides in case you can't do anything else. Bring multiple copies and have multiple versions of your presentation, and connect with the venue technical team. If it is an online presentation, make sure that you have a Zoom team so that you as a presenter can do the job that you're supposed to be doing, and they handle the guests coming in, the breakout room management, and so on. Know who to call. Try to solicit help before you need it. And remember, they're coming to see you and to hear your message. So tonight, we add additional preparation methods and methods of evaluation after the event, the debrief, or some people call it lessons learned meeting. The preparation is key. So one of the ways in which we prepare and strengthen our presentation, make sure that you run through your slides on the actual device and software you'll be using for the presentation. Ensure that all your embedded media, such as videos, animations, work as expected. Mario, take it from there.
I want to build on the points that you raised, Margarita. And the key thing I believe you said was that people are going to be there to see you. You are the presenter, you're the show, you're the name behind the draw. And often what I've seen is people use the technology and the slides, not just as a tool, but as a crutch upon which to deliver that message. So I think the importance of what you just highlighted, the ability to deliver that message even without the materials. The tools will be there to enhance the presentation or add more clarity, but you should also continue to focus on yourself being the main draw, the main reason there. But and I agree with all the things you said about the way you prepare. So I like to make sure in addition to knowing the materials backward and forward, I think one of the key phrases I've heard is that amateurs practice till they get it right, while professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. So when you take it to that level of preparation, I agree. Thank you. When you take it to that level of preparation of knowing your materials, you can then be focused on how do I customize that message to each individual in the audience so that you in the moment can adjust your method, your approach, your storytelling, all of the things that will help you just connect with that audience as you're standing in front of them and learning more about that audience. So I underscore everything that you just said with regards to your preparation. I'll hand it to Darlene for a moment.
Yeah, and I'm going to take us on a little bit of a dip, right? Because we're talking here about preparation and making sure we're preparing so that it's right every time. Well, I'm going to make sure that I'm being realistic. And if we're being realistic, I want to say don't over prepare. Because guess what, folks? If you over prepare, you're only going to get your nerves rattled and your message may not be as authentic as you want it to read. And you may be actually leaning in more on a script rather than being able to help engage your audience. So, I'm going to take us on a little bit of a sidebar. And of course, this comes with experience and expertise. So, as Mario was talking about preparation, we're also deep diving on the preparation of knowing your stuff. That's what the preparation is. It is knowing your stuff so that given any situation, you can pivot quickly. So here's a story. One time, everything went wrong. Nothing was working with the technology. I had access to none of my slides, none of my talking points. The audience was a big audience. How could I really keep the crowd going, knowing that all the technology and bells and whistles and all the shenanigans that come with those spaces goes down? Well, I say to myself, I'm the expert, they're here for me. Why don't we turn this presentation around and make it a Q&A? Immediately on the back end, starting with a Q&A. That is typically not something that you do,
Not at
but I
all.
figured gotta go along with it. And as Marius talks about preparing and being ready for just about anything, preparation is being the expert, knowing your stuff, and being able to work that room even when everything goes down and doing it cool, calm, collective. When everything went down, immediately my audience was like, what's going on? Quickly, I said, we don't need this. As a matter of fact, I want to hear from you. Let's solve issues today. Let's see what's happening in the room. It took a lot of confidence to be able to shake off and reassess, like, what am I going to do in this moment? I had all of a minute and a half to think about it. I'm looking at the IT folks, like, are they going to fix this thing? Is this going to like, is it going to get back into play? But I knew, especially if you are leading sessions within those tight time constraints, I knew that that window of time was something I couldn't gamble with. They were still needing to get the lesson that I was there to deliver. How do I do this quickly? How do we make it happen? And I think, preparation is great. But remember that in the preparation, we're talking about the preparation of you knowing your stuff.
Yeah, and this is where professionalism comes in, right? Because you have to know your work, and this is what is meant also by preparing by knowing your work from the middle to beginning, middle to end, all different kinds of ways, and different improvisations, as we spoke about last week, to be able to improvise. Also, make sure that you familiarize yourself with the venue. I think that's very important before you deliver your presentation. If it's in person, go there, get the spirit of the place. What does it feel like? How is the seating, and how are you going to engage within that seating, so that this way you get that vibe, so that when you go there, you are totally prepared. You imagine that the room is full. You imagine the people connecting with you and feeling their energy and their vitality. And this way you are able to own that room when the actual day comes. And also come up with different plans, like Darlene said. Start with the Q&A, if anything else. The different ways that you can go through that. Another way in which you can prepare is to actually simulate potential problems that can happen during the practice process. Imagine that your presentation, your slides are not working. Imagine that your mic is not working. Because if your mic is not working, guess what? You're going to have to project to the back of the room. And that it has to be practiced. If you have a room that has 200 people and your mic is not working, which I've been through that experience, it does happen, you have to be able to still deliver, and you still have to be able to project. Mario, take it from there.
I want to build on the points you measured. Part of my preparation is always going to, if possible, going to the location, and for the purposes that I work well with visualization, and I believe that's a critical tool in preparation. So the point you raised was that go into the room, walk the floors, get a sense of the feeling of the room, as you said, the spirit of the room, and also even if you have the opportunity just to walk through your slides or your presentation in the room, because with that individual practice, what I then do is I add it to my visualization. So as I sit there and I think through and I imagine myself giving the presentation, the advantage is that when it's time to give it for real, I have often given, I'm just repeating what I've already done numerous times. And that has that cool and calming feeling when you're giving your presentation live. So you're just repeating what you've already seen yourself do successfully. And you can almost visualize the successful result from the audience. They're cheering you on, they're hoisting you up on their shoulders, they're giving you a standing ovation. So again, when you see it happen, you're not overreacting or you're just responding to what you've already seen. So that's why I like when you say simulate what you've already done, simulate the moment, simulate the feeling, because there's nothing more powerful than seeing yourself be successful, because then it becomes just easier for you just to replicate it live. I hand it to you, Darlene, to build on some of the techniques that you use to
Yes.
execute at the high level at which you perform.
So I have to take us on a funny place because, it's all
Uh-oh.
about humor in these
Yeah.
things. When you're in an audience and you're the presenter, and all of a sudden disruption happens, and it's not your tech per se, but it's someone else's. They don't follow the rules. They're supposed to turn their cell phone off and keep the volume down on mute, and they don't do what they're supposed to do. Your audience sometimes doesn't remember that they have to respect that, keeping everything going in that space. And so, as a speaker, I just want to say be prepared. It might be technology, it could be someone else's. And I've been in the room lots of times where I'm in the middle of giving like the line and I'm ready to go and it's going to hit and I'm feeling so good. And then someone else's phone starts ringing and they're
Oh,
answering it and they start having a conversation in like the middle of your talk, and then they're getting up and you're trying to kind of, what do you do? Like, how do you keep this going? Prepare for these moments, prepare for the audience disruption of their technology. This is a huge piece. I make sure, as you're saying, walk around the space, get comfortable with the space, but make sure your audience knows ahead of time if your MC hasn't already announced it, because you're in that space, so you know. So if your MC may have missed that moment, when you take your time and you get that mic, you remind everyone, silence your phones if you haven't already. Try to make sure that you can kind of prepare for these adventures because they happen, and it might not be your technology. So I just throw that funny in there because happened, and it hit me like not too long ago, and I was just like, what's going on? Like all of a sudden I had to like pause, put on a little bit of a show right there and kind of, get my audience like back. It was something that I was not intending was gonna happen. So funny to share.
hey, Margarita, let me jump in for our commercial break, please.
Sure.
I just want to keep telling our guests, because after Darlene's funny, I just want to remind everybody, uh, welcome to Voyage. We want you to grow your business with Voyage. We want you to ignite and enjoy and relive your career with Voyage. And it is so critical that you start your Voyage today. And the best way to do that, how? Become a Voyage Insider. Become a regular part of our programming and what we do, and see what we share on the inside track for Voyage. So again, start your Voyage today. And I love what Darlene is saying, because I usually have a few canned lines when you see, because I do expect cell phones to go every now and then. So I can say, oh, he can say, hey, thank you for holding your call. So, or just making it just, you will find a way just to make something, and the audience will see how you responded to that. It draws attention to the circumstance, but it doesn't shame the person, which is important because you want to still be seen as the
Sure.
collaborative, fun person. And you laugh, and you make a comment to allow the person to escort themselves out, and then you continue on with the program. So I think it's as critical as a part of your preparation. I think Margarita mentioned earlier, have a few canned lines, have a few ad lib moments that you're going to use, and that will enhance your message because it shows how comfortable you are in moments of disruption. Giving it to you, Margarita.
Thank you. I have a story to tell.
Uh-oh. I'm sure it's going to be good.
But this happened with an online presentation. So I'm delivering the workshop and I'm hearing water in the background. It turns out that one of the attendees had her camera off and she was taking a shower. Okay? She was taking a shower. And I said, why do I hear water? She says, oh, She says, I'm sorry, I'm taking a shower. I said, okay, could you please, shut off your mic first? She goes, oh, sure, no problem. I'm sorry. But this is some of the weird stuff that happens. And you have to be prepared for all these weird occurrences, right? So that said, make sure that you have a preparation list and include all those weird quirks that are bound to happen, such as people taking a shower while you're online, or like Darlene said, the interruptions that happen in person. What do you do when this happens? What do you do when that happens? It's so important. Which brings us to, okay, the evaluation. So what happens after the presentation? So evaluate the issues that happened afterwards, and what were the tech issues that arose? How did you handle it? Did you have to write backup plans? Was your response time adequate? Mario, take it from there.
I think it's important. Like in any places where if you want to plan and prepare, you should make a physical, not just mental checklist of all the things that you need for your presentation. So as you go through, and this comes into play like when I leave my home in order to make sure I have my briefcase with my clickers, extra batteries, all of the supporting things that you need in order to get past not just the technological. I also keep a set of notes in case what happened if I lose track of my thoughts and I want to quickly get back to it. I have it in an accessible place where I can pull it out at any time for a presentation. But then you also have the things that you checklist once you get to the venue. So not just packing, but making sure I have all my resources. What are things I'm supposed to be checking for when I'm at the venue? Oh, and these are my fail safes. So when I check their technology, I mean, I was at a presentation this weekend where we had I had my HDMI cord, but when we plugged it in, there was some difficulty with the technology tool that they had in order to make sure that the presentation could come up. So after a little bit of tinkering and getting some help, was able to get that going. But so, and then there's also the post-mortem, making sure that you collect everything that you had brought so you don't miss it for the next event. And then also doing a post-mortem. What worked well, what worked less well, what could be improved so that you can start planning for the next presentation. So you go through those evaluation steps because I mean the challenge is that it's so easy to run from place to place and get presentation to presentation, but you've got to figure that um, if you want to deliver consistency um, in a repeatable fashion, you have to have a program or a process. And by putting together these preparation and postmortem checklists, you will do exactly that. I hand it to you, Eileen.
I love that. I love that. And I want to say, have a backup plan,
Mm,
prepare, have all of the additional resources with you. I pack in my little tiny backpack all the things I need to go live or be anywhere at any time. And
mhm.
I'm equipped with my own stuff just in case. I have power cords, cables, just in case. Why? Because I feel like at the end of the day, your representation is you. How prepared do you show up to all the gigs that you're at? And you want to make sure that people see that as well. Like, oh, things may have went wrong because remember, we're also in situations where we're being employed to run these sessions and expectations have to be met and whatever went wrong, you still had to deliver. So being able to still come through at the end of the day. So back up and having all your stuff so that those folks who employed you can say, even though things might have went wrong in this case, at least this individual was prepared and they had, thank goodness she had that extra cord. What a good. And it's come in handy. I carry USBs, I carry all these extra things. Sometimes they don't come back home with me, but this is keep track of your things when you bring them out. But I do want to also talk a little bit about what might happen when all else fails. And when all else fails, I really want to invite everyone to remember to stay confident in what they're there to do. And remember that they're in a room full of folks. And depending on how large the room is, if it's a big, giant, 300, person room and venue that you're at, it might be a little bit more difficult. But I promise you, you can get your audience involved and employ them to help you. And you can have a backup plan. Like I always look at the sessions I'm delivering and I always say, well, if all else goes wrong, how do I get the audience involved in just making it all happen while the things are happening in the background that maybe can't be fixed? A little bit later in the program, if the IT folks can, plug us in, as that's happened too, where we're about halfway through and next thing you know, it's magic, it's up and running, but I think thinking about how you can get your audience involved, and I bet you they will sign up for it because they always do.
Mhm.
People come to these things ready to engage, and maybe if you pivot a little bit and have them be a part of what you're delivering, it changes the dynamic. I've learned a lot using that format. It actually made me a lot more comfortable introducing that format, and it's not as easy because you're off the cuff, but this is where that preparation comes in, because if you know your stuff, off the cuff is great, and it doesn't matter wherever you are, scripted or not, your message is going to be clear and it's going to shine through.
Beautiful. Margarita, you're on mute.
Okay, now that I am back. So, uh, before we sign off, I'd like to point out three things that were said tonight that were extremely important. First, know your stuff, like Darlene emphasized over and over and over again. Know your stuff. When all else fails, stay confident. Remember to utilize the three C's: cool, calm, collected, and get your audience involved. And finally, Mario's quote in the beginning: amateurs practice until they get it right. Pros practice until they can't get it wrong. Darlene, close us out. Or Mario, whichever one of you.
Or let Darlene, please. Today is a special day for Darlene where she's got acknowledged for some of the great work that she does. So
Yes,
Oh,
we
thank
amplify her. So
you.
yes,
definitely you
definitely.
close us out, Darlene.
Amplify her in red colors. Well, thank you everyone for our session tonight. As always, we are here to support you. We want to help you elevate, grow, and do all the powerful, amazing things you want to do on your journey. So if you are a small business owner, if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a career changer, if you are just someone trying to level up or figure things out, if you are a chief executive looking to kind of get perspective, here is where you can find us. Super excited. Start your voyage today. We will see you next week. Thank you, everyone.